Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at something literally at the heart of how we communicate. Usually when we talk, our words just move forward. We say a sentence, finish a thought, and just kind of move right along to the next one. But every so often, you hear words that don't just move forward, they echo. They hang in the air long after the speaker has actually finished. And today, well, we're diving straight into that exact phenomenon. We are unpacking the secret architectural blueprint behind the absolute most unforgettable messages in human history. I want you to really think about this for a second. Have you ever heard a speech or maybe read a line in a book that just permanently sticks in your brain? You probably don't even remember every single point the speaker made or all the facts they cited, but you absolutely remember how it made you feel. So why does that happen? Why do certain speeches echo in our heads for days or even decades? Well, it's not just because of what was said. It's actually massively dependent on exactly how it was repeated. Section 1. Defining anaphora. Okay, let's dive into this and look at the actual mechanics behind this magic. Because what feels like this totally spontaneous, overwhelming wave of emotion in a great speech is almost always the result of a highly deliberate, meticulously constructed strategy. The secret ingredient? It's a rhetorical device called anaphora. Simply put, it's the repetition of the exact same word or phrase at the very beginning of successive sentences or lines. Now, there are tons of ways to use repetition. Sometimes we repeat stuff at the end of sentences, but anaphora is specifically about the start. It's all about returning to that exact same launch pad, over and over again before firing off the next thought. Let's break down how this actually works in your brain. There's a really clear chain reaction going on here. As you can see, repetition creates rhythm, and then that rhythm creates power. When you hear a phrase repeated at the start of a sentence, it's literally like a wave crashing on the shore. The first wave hits, the second wave hits, and suddenly, boom, your brain recognizes a pattern. This builds massive cognitive momentum. It tells your brain, hey, pay attention, we're building towards something big. And as that rhythm locks in, it completely bypasses our logical filters and creates this rapidly escalating emotional intensity. Let's look at a quintessential example of this in action. We will fight, we will rise, we will win. Just listen to the cadence of those words. Notice how returning to we will literally forces you to emphasize the action word right after it. It drives unity, it inspires action. And watching this mechanism work in real time, it builds rhythm, it builds emphasis, it builds power. It creates this almost physical sensation of forward progress. Section 2. Poetry, speeches, and prose. Now, it's super tempting to think of this as just some trick used by politicians shouting from a podium, right? But anaphora is vastly more versatile than that. It's a foundational tool for writers across the entire spectrum of literature. So why do writers sitting quietly at their desks rely on it so heavily? Well, first, it strengthens emotional expression. When a character repeats an opening thought, it immediately signals desperation or passion or just overwhelming joy. Second, it's a phenomenal way to structure complex ideas. By using the same starting point, a writer can lay out a dense list of thoughts while giving the writing this profound emotional depth that keeps us completely hooked. The crucial equation to remember here is really simple. Repetition equals emotion. Honestly, this is the psychological core of this entire explainer. Anaphora works so well because it's not just some intellectual exercise. It builds an emotional rhythm that we actually feel in our bodies. When that rhythm gets established, our actual heart rates can start to sync up with the pacing of the words. Crazy, right? We don't just understand the message, we experience it. And that visceral, emotional experience is exactly what locks it into our long-term memory. And this brilliantly illustrates what is probably the most famous, culturally significant use of anaphora in modern history, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream. Think about it. He didn't just say he had a dream once and then casually list off his hopes. He returned to the phrase over and over. I have a dream that one day, I have a dream that my 4 little children. Every single time he looped back to that opening, he was tightening the emotional string of the entire crowd. Breaking this down shows us exactly how that repeated opening masterfully builds this unforgettable crescendo of hope and unity. To sum up the main functions we found in this source material, we can break down the use of anaphora into 3 distinct actionable steps. If you're a writer or a speaker, this right here is your playbook. Step 1, use it to emphasize. You want to make absolutely sure your audience cannot miss your main point. Step 2, use it to persuade. That rhythm naturally lulls the listener's defenses, making your argument feel just undeniable. And step 3, use it to inspire. You literally use the rising action of that repeated phrase to elevate the audience's emotional state entirely. Section 3, still used today. So we've looked at history and classic literature, but let's shift gears and look at right now. Because this ancient rhetorical trick, developed literally thousands of years ago, is absolutely not a relic of the past. It is actively shaping the media we consume every single day. Anaphora is everywhere. Advertising slogans use it constantly to just carve a brand into your brain. Movie dialogue, the most epic monologues in your favorite films are almost certainly using anaphora to crank up the tension. Modern political speeches still completely run on it. And everyday storytelling, whether it's a best-selling novel or a viral video essay, relies on this rhythmic echoing, because it's an incredibly effective way to grab our shrinking attention spans and make sure the message actually lands. As we bring this explainer to a close, if you take away absolutely nothing else from the source material today, let it be this. Anaphora is not simply repetition. It is not just saying the same thing because you ran out of words to use. It is deliberate, heavily calculated emphasis. It is planting a flag in the ground over and over again. It is pure rhetorical power. When this device is used effectively, it takes simple, everyday language and totally transforms it. It turns ordinary sentences into an emotional force that can move crowds, define brands, and create truly unforgettable meaning. Which brings us to our final thought. You now know the psychological secret behind the world's most memorable words. You can see the mechanics of the rhythm. So the question is, what echoing words will you use to shape your next powerful message? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.